got two graphs here today I want to go through with you. How to decide what the equation of this curve is. So what we want to do is look at these things I have listed over here on the side. We'll look at amplitude, midline, and the period of the curve. So first, before we do anything, let's figure out, is this a sine or a cosine curve? When I look at it, it looks like I can see a complete cosine curve. You know, if I look at it from a sine perspective, I kind of would need to start here because sine sort of starts in the middle of the curve, goes up, comes back down. I don't see a complete sine cycle, so I'm going to go with cosine on this one. So we know at the beginning here that our curve is going to be a cosine curve of some sort. Now, what are the other details? I don't know yet, but let's try to figure out what the midline is. So let's see. The highest it goes looks like 1. The lowest it goes is -5. So between -1 and 5, where's that midline? It appears to be right there. I'm not really great at drawing a line on the screen, am I? At -3. So I would say the midline is at -3. On your equation, this is going to be where the d value goes. So this is at the very end. So we'll hold off before we do that. All right, let's look at the amplitude. The amplitude is going to be the distance from the highest point to the midline or the lowest point to the midline. So how many units is that? Looks like it's about 2 units this way and also 2 units from -3 to -5. So the amplitude, I would say A is 3. Excuse me, 2. So your amplitude is 2 units, not 3. All right, and then for the period of the function, where does this graph start? It starts at 0. So we're looking at a horizontal length, really, is what the period is. How long does it take the curve to make a complete cycle from start to finish? Well, if it starts at 0, this curve, if I follow it, this curve is complete by the time it gets here to 2 pi. So from start to finish, that's 0 to 2 pi. So what's that distance? The horizontal distance is just 2 pi. And we've talked about how the formula for period is 2 pi over b. And another way you can think about this is how many cycles. B represents the number of cycles that function will cycle through in the 2 pi distance. So how many cosine curves appeared from 0 to 2 pi basically is what I'm saying. And it's just 1. And if you put that B value in the formula, what are you going to get if you put 1 right here? 2 pi divided by 1 is 2 pi, and we know that that's what the period is. So the B value is 1. Now, where do all these things go? That's the next question. All right, we know we're at a cosine curve. Your amplitude value is your 2, so it sticks right out here in front of your function. And then the format, remember, looks like this for right now. All right, so our b value is 1. That's going to go in front of x, and it's just 1, so we're just going to leave it as x. And then our midline gets tacked on to the end. It's the vertical change in the graph. So this is your equation for that one. Y equals 2 cosine x minus 3. Let's go to the next one. All right, there, you can anticipate some different changes on this one. So let's see. Let's first find the midline. And halfway in between, let's see, where is it? Right here, right at 1. That's a positive 1, so midline is 1. And remember, that's going to be your d value in your equation. Now we need to figure out what kind of function we're dealing with. What is this? If that's our midline, we can see a complete curve of sine. So this is going to be a sine equation. Go ahead and set that up. We don't really know what's going to happen with our other values, so let's just hold off. All right, now the distance from the midline to the highest point or the lowest point appears just to be 1 unit. So that will be our amplitude. So A is 1. All right, and then the period. All right, so from start to finish, here we go. Start at 0, finishes up at 2 pi. That's where the cycle ends. So there's a couple of ways you can think about this, okay? If you want to do it a formulaic way to where you will not be having to guess, you can set the period formula equal to what you know the period is to find the b value. This is just a quick little proportion, cross multiply. solve for b. What's going to happen? These pi's are going to cancel, so you're left with b is 4. All right, so we know the b value is 4 because the period of this is pi over 2. But how do you figure that out without that? Well, what is the regular period for a normal sine curve? It's 2 pi. How many times will this curve cycle through before it reaches 2 pi if it's already completed a cycle at pi over 2? Let's hop back over here to Desmos and I'll show you. All right, so here we go. We've got 0, okay? And let's see if I can get it switched back around here. Start at 0. We are completed at pi over 2. That's 1. Another cycle at pi. 2. 3. By the time you get to 3 pi over 2, how many cycles have we cycled through? 4 complete sine curves by the time we get to 2 pi. So that is why, another reason why, the b value is 4 on this curve. All right, so let's put all this together. So our amplitude is 1. So you could leave the 1 there if you want to. And remember, your equation is very similar to what it was for cosine. We've just got a sine in there instead. All right, so 1 times the sine of 4x. And then the midline was 1 plus 1. And you can go back over here to Desmos and see that is exactly what I typed in to get that. There it is. So y equals sine 4x plus 1.